Hi, I'm Dr. Mark, and I'm going to help you sing and perform more like the top artists around the world. I'm a professional voice teacher, performance coach, and opera stage director. I've helped thousands of singers around the world learn the techniques and methods that got the top singers to where they are. So today we're going to talk about why K.D. Lang's Hallelujah is one of the best. How do we know it's one of the best? Well, if nothing else, it's got like 20 million views here on the original video. I've never watched it before, so I don't know. I'm excited to see why so many people are watching it and loving it. So here we go.
I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, major left, a baffled king composing hallelujah.
Okay, first of all here, we're hearing a lot of sliding all over the place, right? Sliding up to that note. Is that okay? Is there something wrong with that? Well, depends on what style you're singing. In this particular style where it adds some of that relaxed, kind of jazzy feel to it, and it just kind of fits the style of the song and what she's singing. We want to make sure that we're hitting the center of that note at some point there. If we're singing something else, it would not work. It wouldn't be the right thing to do, but since it fits the style here, why not? The cool thing here is she's demonstrating really well a great exercise you can use in any style as a way to connect that voice and make sure that, especially as you're transitioning between registers or where your voice wants to crack or break, or even just big leaps, this sliding up and around and in between notes. If you can do that and really slide up to a note and then back down to the note and have it stay really consistent, then the next step, if you don't really want that slide sound in the final product, is to keep sliding and keeping the feeling of sensation slide in there, feeling like you're sliding faster and faster until you're just sliding so fast that people can't hear it. Is that really the case? Well, no, not really, but it's going to feel that way here in our throat, that we can maintain that feeling of slide and connection in our voice. We don't want to disconnect. And what we mean by disconnect is disconnect from that feeling of slide and stretch that needs to happen when we're changing notes, even if they're big leaps. So, great demonstration of an exercise that we can use no matter what style.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Okay, something else that I'm really loving here is that each time she's saying hallelujah, it's different. She's not saying it the same way twice. It has a slightly different timbre, a different emotion attached to it, a different thought that we can sense as an audience because she's expressing it vocally and with her body differently. That's really important when we have these repetitive words that come over and over and over again. We don't want any single repetitive word to sound the same. They each need to have their own meaning. Well, how do you do that? What you can do is use the tool of using subtext. So, for example, if I'm going to say, I love you, that can mean so many different things. I can say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that can mean anything from, you're nice, you're sweet, you're annoying me, to you're the most amazing person in the world. The same words across the board, but those subtext that I just said change the inflection, change what we're really saying. So if you go through each of those repetitive words and really identify the subtext below it, that's going to help you really rethink that word. So in your head, you're not really saying the same word over and over again. It's going to help your voice stay relaxed, released. It's not going to get it. It's going to keep your mind from getting bored, getting interrupted, getting stuck. Just a really helpful tool.
Well, your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew ya. Well, she tied you to her kitchen chair, broke your throne and cut your hair, and from your lips she drew hallelujah.
Loved how when she's talking about tied you to a chair, she wraps her arms in the cord there. How cool is that? Using things that aren't traditionally used as props as a prop. One of the signs of a great artist is that they're able to use everything around them to help them tell the story. They don't limit themselves to what they should do, but they really see the potential in what they can do. Love that here.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baby, I've been here before. I've seen this room, I've walked this floor. I used to live alone before I knew ya.
Okay, a lot of the sound we're hearing so far is kind of on the aspirate side. It has this kind of smoky quality to it, right? Which is great for the style. One of the ways to think about getting that smoky style is making sure we're using a lot of volume of air, a large quantity of air, and still trying to keep it relatively consistent. But you'll also notice that means that the phrases aren't going to last super long. You're going to run out of air a lot faster that way. And since our goal is not to make this clean, clear, efficient sound, it is kind of an inefficient sound. We need to plan for that accordingly and make sure that we're planning to take lots of breaths in between places and make sure that we're plotting out when we're going to take those breaths. Does that make this sound bad or wrong? No, Ken, it's the style that fits the mood, fits the music, fits the storytelling. So really, really expressive. We get some clear sounds here later on where she decreases that volume of air, keeps it going nice and fast, and we get this cleaner sound. She increases the force as well, which then brings things back into balance.
But I saw your flag on the marble arch. Our love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
So, are you seeing any tension, stress here? Anything that's indicating that something that is going on that doesn't belong with the singing or with the storytelling, something that we could eliminate? Maybe, but I think what we really see here is this freedom for her to follow the impulse to do what she needs to do. So getting rid of extraneous tension isn't just about vocal technique and easing up the voice and getting the voice to work efficiently and be expressive. It's also about freeing the body so that when we're singing, our body doesn't tight and tense so that it is locked up and can't express itself. We need to eliminate those extraneous tensions, not just for our voice, but for our acting expression too. So what she's doing here of walking around the stage is great because she's engaging the entire audience here. It's also great because it's helping her from getting locked up and stuck, and she's making sure that her body as she's going in between is staying loose and relaxed and that she's not building up tension somewhere without realizing it. She's finding ways to make sure that she's engaging all different parts of her body and keeping them moving with it still being believable. This song doesn't allow for crazy movement and running and jumping all over the place. It's relatively relaxed and slow and calm still at this point. So she can't do a ton, but within that, you'll notice the range of motion she's taking each body part in is pretty significant, which also lends to us this feeling of expressiveness, of communication, of ease, of her really engaging with what she's saying.
Maybe there's a God above, but all I've ever learned from love was how to shoot somebody who outdrew ya. It's not a cry that you hear at night. It's not someone who's seen the light. It's a cold and it's a broken heart.
Okay, notice that we're getting this warmth and strength. She has a more space in back, which is collapsing things a little bit, keeping a little warm, muted, rich. Then when she really has to go up there, it turns more towards an and it gets really kind of in that buzzy place as well. She doesn't let it collapse there, because otherwise that would just be buzzing, kind of an obnoxious sound. But she engages that whine that makes it carry, that makes it sound more intense. You can do the same thing. Try both independently. Try an up position. Not my favorite. It usually makes things really kind of tight and tense and uncomfortable, but because she's not over singing and pushing here, I'm not seeing a lot of stress associated with it. So she's negotiating that relatively well. But as you're going up, you can change that towards an position and play with that, see what that does. And then just play with that whiny position and imagine that you're a kid again whining to your mom about how sick you are, right? Imagine that you're a kid and you're whining to your mom about how you don't like dinner. Mom, I don't want to, mama. Use that sound, play with that, see where it goes, and then try to do both at the same time and see what the result is. I think you're going to notice it's a relatively similar sound to what you're hearing here.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Notice how those hand gestures there, even though she's just doing a really simple hand gesture, didn't freeze. It kept moving. That's awesome. It's a little tricky because you'll notice if you kind of keep a slow, consistent, easy burn and it's in full range of motion, that can feel really weird sometimes depending on the song. So it's a matter of how do I really express that and have it look believable and honest without getting stuck and rigid. And that's something you have to play with. But here it's working for her quite well. Notice even on that ooh that we were watching earlier, if you'll see it, you'll see this top teeth coming out. She's really working hard to keep that forward sound with the place she has in back so that it just doesn't fall back and get swallowed and heavy. She's really trying to balance out that warmer sound that she has in back there, because if she doesn't, it's just gonna get swallowed heavy, tight, tense, uncomfortable, and she's definitely not gonna negotiate the higher notes. But by keeping that balance in place with it forward, keeping that stretch in there, nice. Okay, so lots of things going on there that are really great. Things that we've talked about in other lessons. The breath flow is really consistent. She's using those slides, especially at the beginning there, to help her. And so she's using the style to help her technique. Really smart and great. You're not seeing any extraneous tension there throughout the entire body. If you were to watch, I'm not seeing any big grab of those abs. She's keeping it nice and suspended. And she's being really expressive and following the impulse with her body and her storytelling. So really, really fun. Two things I want to point out from a stage director kind of point of view. One is her costume there. It's mostly black with this kind of collar that frames it here and really keeps our eyes locked here on the face, with this kind of V-neck with this fabric here that softens that up and again kind of shines light up into her face, which is really kind of nice and adds contrast and helps us stay focused on her face for the most part. And then secondly, one of the words that describes the style of communication here that she's using is called indicating. So she talks about the sky, she points at the sky. She talks about tying someone to a chair and she's tying her hand up in a chair. She's really trying to illustrate with her body exactly what she's talking about. You'll find a lot of different opinions on what people think about indicating and not indicating. The big question here is, does this style of storytelling fit this song in this moment? Does it engage you? Do you believe it? Or does it kind of suck you out and feel a little false or fake? I'm not trying to suggest one or the other here. For me, there are moments where it really works for her well here. Other moments where it feels overly planned and choreographed. It doesn't quite ring true to me. Does that mean it's bad? No. If you're going to indicate, making it really believable is really difficult. Because usually in real life, we aren't trying to mime with our body what we're talking about. We're letting our body express and do other gestures that enhance what we're talking about, but aren't necessarily miming it. Sometimes we do if we don't feel like we're being understanding. We are trying to really be overly clear, but you realize even in doing that, it makes it feel a little bit strained and stressed and a little bit false. It feels like we're telling a story to children, which isn't always bad. That's actually a great tool to use if you're having a hard time being expressive. You can imagine that you're telling a story to children. Sometimes that will unlock that really well. So rather than saying good or bad here, I'm just pointing out what's going on and having you pay attention to it. See if there are times when you want to use this tool, but other times when maybe it's not the best tool to use, and experimenting with it yourself so you can create the most believable, engaging performance that you can. If you want a voice lesson, a performance coaching, or want me to work with you or your group to help you sing easier or perform at a consistently higher level, book a time with me at mrperformingartstudio.com. I look forward to working with you online.